All right,
Okay.
everyone.
Hello.
We good to go?
Yes, Emma. So let me do a quick introduction for you before I give the podium to you. So hello everyone. Welcome to the Global Biz Apps Day 2020, powered by D365 Champs. I'm Roma Gupta, and I'll be moderating the session along with Ankush. Hope you all are doing well and keeping safe. The session is presented by Emma. She will be talking about building a beer bot, introduction to Power Virtual Agents, one of the Power Platform family member. She enjoys spending her time learning and teaching others about the finite possibilities of Dynamics and Power Platform. So before I hand over the session to Emma, I would like to mention that if you have any question, please feel free to put the question in the chat window or raise your hand, and we will take that during the session or if possible in the Q&A at the end. So thank you again for joining, and Emma, over to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. So just a quick check. Just a quick check, make sure everyone A can hear me, B can see me, and C can also see my screen. Is that correct?
Correct.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me, especially everybody in the US. I know it's a Saturday morning. It's always a bit of a struggle. I definitely struggle on Saturday morning. So super appreciate everyone being here. Couple of things. I'm usually joined by my coworker, Oscar, here too. So if you see him popping on screen, he may be here to say hello. He likes to do tricks, likes to join us in some of our sessions, and might just jump up and probably delete all my slides, which he occasionally does.
Yeah,
So
that's
just
what
a
I
quick heads up on
two
that.
presenters, I think, for this session.
Exactly. A quick introduction as to who I am for any of you guys who do not know me. I am Emma Darcy, better known as probably the tattooed CRM girl within the Microsoft community here. You can find me in a couple of locations, primarily on Twitter if you like things like cat pictures, random GIFs, and also just angry articles. Twitter is a good place to find me at tattooedcrmgirl.com as well. I blog about things, primarily Power Platform, some marketing things, and a lot of PVA options in there too. And I am actually a business applications MVP and a Power Platform developer at Applied Information Sciences too. So recently joined the AIS team over there and having a great time. In case you haven't noticed, I'm also Irish. So based in Philadelphia, but I actually am from Ireland originally. So I always like to say a bit Diagwich, which is hello in Irish. I like to share a little bit of our lovely language there as well. So this session will be quite interactive. I do love providing a QR code for you guys to scan and check out the BeerBot to play with in real time as we go through the presentation. So if you want to take a visit, take a spin to the Black Taxi and experience the virtual bartender in line with the presentation, go ahead and scan that QR code now, and there will be an option to take a look at it later on too. So if you miss out, no hassle at all. All right, so very quick agenda, a couple of things here that we're going to be looking at. Firstly, for those of you who are not familiar with Power Virtual Agents, we'll go through a quick run through of what PVA actually is, and you're going to hear me refer to this as PVA, as Power Virtual Agents is quite a mouthful. So we'll be going through what exactly PVA is, a couple of the key components that make up a PVA bot. So some of the key things if you are getting started building your own chatbot, a few things that you're going to need to know before you get started. Then, once we've gone through all of the different key components, we are going to take a look at the virtual bartender. So originally, this particular project started out as a beer bot, but we actually grew that and turned it into a full virtual bartender. So as you play around with it, you can ask it questions such as, what beer should I drink? What food should I order? Who are you? All these different questions, and the virtual bartender should give you a good answer. And also, if you have any suggestions, please do let me know. I am always open to how to make this particular IP even better. We will absolutely be doing a live demo, of course. We need to see how this thing works in action. And as always, we will have time for Q&A. This particular session tends to run for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, just depending. So there's always time for questions and answers at the end. So before we dive into looking at the key components of PVA, I did shamelessly steal this slide from PVA in a day. So if any of you guys have taken PVA in a day, you will be familiar with this particular information. And it's definitely one of the things that really struck me when I started working with PVA. And as a millennial, I definitely relate to this, right? So 66% of people try to use self-service rather than contacting an agent for assistance. I don't know about you guys. I don't answer the phone. I don't answer the door unless I'm expecting food to be delivered off or an Amazon package. I just don't interact with people. So if I ever have an issue with something, my first protocol is always going to be either some form of chatbot or an email service. And especially since we've had this COVID pandemic hit us, chatbots have become even more relevant these days. So we need to have ways to communicate with our customer base and also our end user base in some circumstances using a very easy and intuitive technology. And that's where we bring PVA into the mix. So let's just take a very quick look at the architecture of where PVA sits. So most of us here are going to be pretty comfortable with the idea of what the Power Platform is. If you're not comfortable with what the idea of the Power Platform is, it's basically a couple of things. It has an underlying base of a couple of different components. The most core piece of this is going to be the Common Data Service, the service that we all know and love and work with regularly. But on top of the Common Data Service, we have four huge components of the Power Platform: BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and now welcome Power Virtual Agents to the family. So completely built on the Common Data Service Power Platform, meaning that you can interact with it throughout the entire Common Data Service using the Power Automate, which we all absolutely adore. So it can be used as a chatbot, but it also has multiple different other features. So I recommend maybe looking at implementing this for support cases. So if you have an internal service desk, for example, or if you want help onboarding new users, you can actually spin up a PVA bot now in Teams thanks to Project Oakdale. So if you want to do something like that, you can do. You can also use it for, assistance, knowledge-based questions, and also quizzes too. It's kind of a fun one to do. A friend of mine built a PVA that she uses with her husband, actually helps them decide what food they're going to make that night. So any of us who are in a relationship probably understand the struggle of deciding what to eat for dinner, right? Create your own PVA to sort that out. I think PVA might just save the world. All right, so now we know what a PVA bot looks like, but what exactly can they do? And they are actually quite complex. So a couple of things. Firstly, as we mentioned, built right on top of the Power Platform. So it can be fully integrated with CDS, can pull records from CDS, can kind of work with that logic using Power Automate. So super, super intuitive. The thing I probably love the most about Power Virtual Agents, and I hand on heart, I am lazy. I will always take the easy way out. Power Virtual Agents is definitely the easiest part of the Power Platform to spin up and get started with immediately. Literally no prior knowledge required whatsoever. The bot will actually talk you through the process. It's pretty amazing. So spin up your PVA in literally minutes and get started with your own chatbot. Then share that chatbot with your friends and people will think you're super cool. It's awesome. Next thing that I love about PVA is the interface is incredibly intuitive. So for such a complex bot, you are actually able to see your topic flows really easily. And we will be going through how to build our topics out later on. Integrates with Power Automate, as I mentioned earlier, super, super easy to pull that data from the CDS. So a cool example of this is if you have somebody who wants to ask a question about an order that they place, they can pop in the order number, use Power Automate to search through the CDS for that order record and pull back that data display to your end user. You can always escalate to a human agent if needed. So as millennials, we absolutely do hate speaking to people. We absolutely hate human connection. But in the event that things do not go the way we want to, we need to talk to someone, right? You got my order. I didn't get my order. The bot is telling me my order was delivered. That's not good to me. I need to speak to an actual human being. So PVA does give you the option to escalate to a human being at any time, and it does integrate with several different support options. And it also integrates with omnichannel too. So important to note. Built-in analytics as well. So really, really cool thing about this too. You don't have to go out and build any external Power BI dashboards or anything like that. It does come with some customer analytics built into the actual platform itself, which is really neat. Gives us the option to see how our bot is actually performing in real time and also determine what topics are doing well, how's our CSAT score looking, all that good stuff. So everything built in-house, no external Power BI dashboards required. And of course, super cool, you can literally publish it anywhere. So you do have the ability to do that too. Okay, so let's take a quick look at some of those key components that I mentioned earlier. First things first, you're going to want to start with topics. And in our live demo, we will be going through some of this more extensively. So some of this doesn't make sense right now. Hold on, we will definitely get to it. Topics can always be thought of as your conversational pieces of information that the bot will take and start to process and flow through a conversation in a specific way. So usually a topic will kick off with a trigger phrase. So it doesn't always have to kick off with a trigger phrase, but it commonly does. such as, what are the store hours? Are you open today? I need to return an order. All these commonly used phrases that the bot will then recognize as a specific topic of conversation to then interact with the end user. So it knows how to actually progress through a flow of a conversation. So it does use AI to parse natural language too. So if you can see here a couple of trigger phrases we have: are you open today? When do you close? What are your hours? If I was just to type in the word hours, the bot will more than likely know that I want to know what the store hours are. If it is confused about a specific topic, or if it kind of thinks it might be one or two different topics, it will always give you the option to pick a topic, and you can also have the ability to do a fallback topic. If it just doesn't know what you're talking about, you're literally writing gibberish, your cat has run across your keyboard, and the bot is just like, I don't know what's going on. You always have the ability to do what's called a fallback topic. So if you want to basically say, don't know what you're talking about, here's some options for you. You can also do that. Cool thing about topics is they can also be linked to other topics to create a chain-like experience. So flowing from topic to topic. A couple of things why I like this is, from a developer perspective, being able to manage different chunks of conversation in different pieces and determining where those different chunks of conversation should flow to. So being able to reuse different topics as well. It's really, really helpful. So when you build out your topic and you saved it and you created your trigger phrases and all that good stuff, the next thing you'll do is you'll come to the authoring canvas. And this is where you will actually build out the entire flow of the conversation. So it is basically a bot builder that you can do a couple of things with. So first of all, you might kick off with a question or a message or a piece of information to kind of get the end user to interact with you. So first thing here, you can see we're asking them a question, and then what we can do is we can determine what the response the end user is going to give us. Is it going to be a Boolean? Is it going to be multiple choice? Is it going to be a text string? Different things that the bot can then expect to receive back, and also then assign that to a specific variable. And when we assign a specific response from an end user to a variable, this is super powerful. We can actually go ahead and use that variable in multiple different places later on in the bot. So being able to remember parts of the conversation with the end user so you don't have to go back and ask for the information again is really helpful and definitely very end user friendly. So like I said, visually describes the flow of the bot conversation, and also a couple things that you can do here. As you can see from the image, you can ask a question. You can call an action. So calling an action will basically trigger a Power Automate flow. And the cool thing about PVA is you can literally build your Power Automate flow within the same stream. So you don't have to go outside to go to flow.microsoft.com to actually build out your flow separately and then link it in. You can actually do it from this screen. So it'll ask you to either create a new flow or select a flow that you've already created. And the flows in this case, they will give you a couple of different options. You will be given the option to pull in a variable from PVA. So for example, you ask your end user a question, and you can take that answer to that question and then apply that to your flow and do different things with it. Like I mentioned, check an order number or check the status on something, things like that you can do. Other cool things you can do as well, and we've done this internally, we've built out some super cool complex flows that will take input from an end user and it will do a bunch of things to that string. It will do some concatenate, some substrings, all that good stuff, and do some case switches. And basically you can return out a specific variable too. So you can also say, okay, because the flow did X, Y, and Z to your input, here's your output. There we go. Words are hard today. So the other thing you can also do is creation of conditional logic. So you don't actually have to do your conditional logic within a flow either. You can do multiple different branches from one simple start point with Power Automate 2, not Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, getting everything confused. So being able to say, if the end user responds yes, then do this. If they respond no, then they do this. If they don't respond in any of the ways you expected, do this other option. So multiple different ways of creating conditional logic flow, asking more questions, and also triggering more topics. So a ton of different things that you can do with the authoring canvas. So as I mentioned earlier, being able to integrate with Power Automate basically makes this a lot more versatile. So honestly, Power Virtual Agents is really not anything without Power Automate, because we need Power Automate to be able to do a lot of the actual data analytics and data integration for us too. So as I mentioned earlier, it does have the ability to pull data from CDS based on input, check different actions, and produce different outputs. It also allows us to pick up on different flows that already exist. So we can actually build our flows out separately if we need to and pull them in. And as I mentioned, does allow us to do some checking on the input data too. The other thing, and I suppose all of us here, when we build out our apps for our end user or for our clients, we need to test, right? Testing is super, super important. So the very, very cool thing that I absolutely love that the product team have done with PVA is the ability to test your bot out within the actual PVA builder itself. So you can see in my screen here, I have the option to track between topics. And basically when I turn that on, I can literally use the chatbot as an end user would, ask it questions, click on buttons, kind of interact with it. And then the authoring canvas will very easily show us a green line that will basically kind of similar to Power Automate flows, where it'll show you exactly where this conversation flowed through because of different inputs, and will show you exactly where the flow either, didn't go well, or it gave you a certain answer, or it expected a certain thing, all that good stuff. But being able to test our bots is super important. And it's even more important, in my opinion, with Power Virtual Agents, because the input from the end user is not definitive, right? We never really know how humans are going to interact with technology. They might use it for something it's supposed to be built for. They might use it for something it's totally not meant to be built for. I am sure when the product team built out Power Virtual Agents, they did not expect me to turn it into a virtual bartender that basically runs a full beer quiz for you. I don't think that was something they had in mind. But being able to know that your end user is probably not going to interact with the bot the way you expect them to means testing is really, really important. The other part of this too is if you manage to scan that QR code I put up earlier, it does allow you to basically pop out a demo website. So you can also demo things in real time too. So once your bot is done, you built your topics, authoring canvas is good, you've tested, and you're ready to deploy. There are so many different ways you can deploy Power Virtual Agents, which makes it even more powerful. So a couple different things you'll note here. You can deploy it to Teams, but you can also build your PVA bot directly within Teams, as I mentioned earlier. Demo website is something that we're using right now for our client, just so they can get a good feel for how the bot works. Custom websites too. My very good friend Megan Walker recently spun up a PVA on her blog. So if anybody wants to go see what it looks like, they can ask her chatbot some questions about her different podcasts and blog posts and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. But also some ways I see this becoming very significant in the future is the ability to integrate this with the likes of Facebook or also Slack. Facebook specifically, because I can see this from a consumer perspective, a lot of us will use Facebook to interact with some of the products or some of the major companies that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I know, for example, if I have a question on something and there's an option to ask a question on Messenger for a particular product or a particular company I'm interested in, I will probably go that route because, again, I don't want to call or speak to anyone in person. So being able to do PVA through Facebook is also really cool. And I don't remember if this is public knowledge just yet, but there are some super, super cool features coming with regards to being able to deploy your bot. So in order to not break my NDA, I'll leave it there. Finally, when you've got your bot deployed, you've got some sessions being run through it and you want to actually analyze your results, as I mentioned earlier, there's a couple of different things that you can track. So all of this completely built in. You do not need to build a Power BI report external to this. This is totally out of the box and already completely set up for you. So a couple of things that you will notice here is the ability to be able to track CSAT and sentiment analysis. So for those of us who worked in customer service situations before, and some of us have done live chat, I've done live chat as a support agent before, being able to track your CSAT performance based on different ways that you answered questions is super cool. And you can actually do that with Power Virtual Agents. So being able to see a full in real-time analysis, there we go, analysis of your CSAT score is also available too, and being able to monitor that sentiment too. But also being able to go even further and see which topics are producing the higher CSAT scores and which ones are producing lower CSAT scores. Even more importantly than that, being able to see your abandonment rate and which topics are actually causing those abandonment rates too. So that gives you a good idea as to say, hey, this topic is obviously not performing the way we want it to. We need to look at the flow, we need to look at the language, and maybe just reposition it somehow. So super important. Finally, even more important than all of those things combined is going to be billing. So of course, PVA is not free. There is a charge for it, and it actually is charged based on the number of sessions that you produce. So being able to keep an eye on the total number of sessions to ensure that you're not impacting your billing rating is also really, really nice. So thanks for that, Microsoft. Appreciate it. All right. As my cats are destroying the house behind me, we'll go on to our real world implementation. So this is my very, very good friend, Neil. And Neil works as a bartender in my local bar called the Black Taxi. Not only that, he's also from Northern Ireland. So if any of you have not interacted with a human being from Northern Ireland before, they have a very, very thick and often very difficult to understand accent. I am from Ireland. I'm from the southern part of Ireland, but even I have a very, very hard time understanding what my good friend Neil is saying sometimes. So there is a couple of challenges that we have with this. So here's Neil, and he has this thick Northern Irish accent, but because of COVID, things are even harder to understand because he has to wear a mask now. So when previously people didn't really know what he was saying, you kind of read his face, read his expression, read his mouth, kind of get an idea as to what he's saying instead of just nodding like, yeah, sounds great. No one can actually understand him now. He has to wear this mask, and he's actually found it very, very frustrating. So when Neil and I sat down, we were having a chat, and I was showing him the beer bot that I built for another brewery here in Philadelphia. He was like, this is super cool. Maybe we can turn it into like a virtual bartender where I can give it to my customers if they're having a hard time understanding me, and maybe they can interact with it that way and kind of maybe use it as a Neil's translator. So we decided to spin up a PVA bot and basically implement exactly that. So it is a Neil's translator PVA bot. And just as a quick side note as well, Neil does make some absolutely amazing music. So if anybody ever wanted to check out some really good traditional Irish music, I did add a little QR code as a bit of a plug for him, and I thank you for letting me use him as a case study. So we're going to use PVA to solve this particular problem. So now we're going to do a very quick demo, and let's take a look at how this actually works. I hopefully have it open. I do indeed. So first things I like to do is I like to just kind of run through a very quick demo and showing you guys how the virtual bartender has been working, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the actual components of Power Virtual Agents. So I'm going to kick off my bot, of course, by saying hello. In the future, there is going to be a feature coming where you can kick off the bot automatically and you don't have to wait for an input. So just love to point that out. And as you can see, a couple of things are actually happening here. And I'm actually going to turn on track between topics and kick that off again so we can actually see the flow of the conversation. So you can see when I hit track between topics, the right-hand side will load up and it will actually show us the full flow of the conversation that we're currently having with the PVA bot. First things first, I always like to point out here you can see when I type in hello, it is a trigger phrase. It is kind of considered a system trigger phrase that you can't actually modify, and it's also known as a greeting phrase. So there's about 56 different trigger phrases that you can use to kick off a PVA bot that are built out of the box, which is pretty neat. You can see here, I've actually got an image of Neil, and this is actually being pulled in via a Power Virtual Agent flow. So you can see here, when the person selects hello, it immediately kicks off this flow and will return a picture of my good friend Neil in his mask behind the bar, being COVID safe. And we're actually doing that using Power Automate, getting all my powers confused, Power Automate and Azure Blob Storage. So what Power Automate actually does is it runs back into Azure Blob and pulls the URL of this image to making sure that it is actually publicly available and then pops it right in here to the chat. In future editions of Power Virtual Agent, you will not actually have to go ahead and write that code. It will be automatic. So that is coming in the future. Last I checked, it was scheduled for Wave 1 2021, but things could change. After that, it's going to display a very simple message. So you can see here on the right-hand side, when the flow kicks off, it does actually give us a response, and it actually gives us this variable here, and the variable is what's holding that particular image URL and displaying it back. You could also potentially use adaptive cards for this as well if you want it to be super technical. It's not something that I am very skilled at, so I've just gone for this. You do have the ability to then kind of pop a message and just be like, hey, I'm Neil, I'll be serving you. You can ask me questions, and then it's actually redirecting to the next topic. So this topic is called help, and the help topic actually does a couple things. It asks a questions like, what can I do for you? And as you can see here at the bottom, there's a couple of different options. What should I order? What events are coming up? Or who is Neil? So if you don't actually know who Neil is, and if you've been to the Black Taxi, you know who Neil is. But if you don't know who Neil is, you can ask the bot a question and he will actually explain that to you. I really like to demo how the beer bot original quiz works within this bot, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. First things first, when you are at the Black Taxi, they offer amazing food and also amazing drinks. So you can either say, hey, are you hungry or are you thirsty? In this case, I'm going to tell Neil I'm actually thirsty. And what he will do then is he will say, do you want to see the menu or do you want to take the beer quiz? To show you guys how we're displaying the menu in also a very COVID-friendly way here, I'm going to click on see the menu. And what this does is, again, it's same thing with Power Automate. It's going back into Azure Blob and it's pulling out a PDF image here for me. This works really nicely on a phone because you can zoom in and kind of use your fingers. And 9 times out of 10, people are going to be using this on their phone. They're not really going to be using it on a PC, right? So you can also do this click to enlarge button, which brings out the actual image, and we can kind of zoom in here and see, what do they have on draft, what do they have immediately available for order. So a couple of things there. Once we've seen the menu, I don't know if you guys are like me, I tend to know exactly what I want when I go to the bar because I drink the same thing. But if you're feeling a little bit adventurous, you can always try the beer quiz. So you can say, yes, I actually need some help deciding what to drink today. And this is where we're going to kick off a beer quiz that I did tailor specifically to what's on draft with the Black Taxi at the moment. So it's going to ask you a couple of questions. And for those of you who do want to get drunk real fast and don't care about taste, I apologize if I insult you with the response to this question, but shame on you for drinking Bud Light. It is not a beer. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the no button because I'm not going to go for Bud Light, and I'm going to answer a couple of questions. So you can see it is flowing through a couple of the different topics here, such as are you drinking outside, and it's expecting a Boolean response. So remember, we're keeping those different variables within the bot to remember for later on. And it's saying if you answer this to true, and all of the conditions obviously being no in a Boolean case, you can either go hot outside or winter. So in this case, I am not drinking outside. I don't know where you guys are based right now, but here in Philadelphia, we're actually at freezing level today. So I will not be outside drinking a cold beer. I will be inside by a fire drinking a nice cold beer. Is it a cold winter night? It's getting there. So I'm going to say no in this case. And again, notice on the right-hand side how we're flowing through the different topics here. Do you want something hoppy? So we're kind of flowing through the different conversations and getting a good feel for what this actual end user wants to drink. I do not want something hoppy in this case. And Warhead's candy, for those of you who were not based in the US, are like a very, very sour candy. So we're basically trying to determine based on the end user's input here, do they want like a sour beer or a crisp beer? I am going to say no in this case. A lot of no's in this answer. And it's actually going to go ahead and recommend a specific kind of portrait that they have on tap. And in this case, it's telling me that I should try this particular beer. So when Neil comes back around and the end user or the customer or the patron has actually filled out the beer quiz and like, oh, this sounds really good, maybe I'll give this beer a try. And Neil's then able to go ahead and pour it up for him or order them for him. Really, really cool, because in this way, you can also direct your patrons or your end users in this case to maybe try something they wouldn't usually be familiar with. So for myself, not really a porter drinker, but because I answered these questions in a specific way, I'd probably give it a go because it's probably geared towards what I'm actually feeling like right now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the no button. And once I basically tell Neil I'm all set and ready to go, I can actually go ahead and rate my experience. So this is feeding into that CSAT that we saw earlier on as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just say that was a good experience, and that will then feed in. And finally, just to make sure everyone is good, you do have the option to say, yep, I'm actually all set, I'm grand, or you can actually go ahead and come back into the flow again. The actually option will kick off the flow again just to get us started with Neil. And we're going back to that health topic that I mentioned earlier. So again, remember as developers, being able to break out this conversation into different chunks. So now we've gone through the actual flow of the bot itself. It does do several other things, but just in the interest of time, just wanted to show you that one specific part of the bot. Over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to open our topics section, and there are a couple of things I do want to point out here, and there is a piece of functionality I forgot to put in the slide deck. I usually do, but I guess I must have forgotten it this time, so we'll talk about it now. You'll see on the right-hand side, here are your topics. So you've got things like user topics, which are things that you actually create yourself. So user topics will be like, what order do I have? Or depending on your different beer bot, let's say it's like a support bot, my computer is not working, my monitor is not working, my laptop's not working, my mouse stopped working, different kind of topics like that you can kick off. So in here, if I pop open, let's see, you can see there's a number of trigger phrases here. If I take a look at this particular topic, just to show you guys how it's built, this is the food quiz topic. It's basically listening for all of these different kind of variations of this trigger phrase. And if I go to the authoring canvas in here, we're going to see how complex this particular food quiz can get. So once it hears one of these trigger phrases, it's going to kick off and ask this question. And we do have multiple options here. And again, if any of you are not familiar with Irish terminology, I do apologize, as some of this is quite geared towards Irish people. So, depending on what answer they pick here, we're actually able to flow through these conditions and check the logic and then redirect them to the specific topic to that particular answer, which is really nice. That's our topics. If we go back, pop open this here. A couple of things I do want to also note is you'll see here at the very top a suggest topics option. This is super, super helpful. So let's say you are building a support bot and you have like a bunch of FAQs out on a website somewhere that you usually direct end users to. What you can do here is you can actually pull in the URL of where your FAQs are hosted, and it will then come back with some suggested topics, which I've actually done previously as an example. So up here you can see existing topics and also suggested topics. If I click on our suggested topics here, it's actually pulled in all those different FAQ questions for us, where we can go in and see are they actually topics that we want to add to the bot. So for example, this how do I activate my account option. If I click on this, it's already pre-built out the entire flow for us, which is really, really helpful. It's basically looking at the FAQ URL, taking the question and taking the response to that question and popping that as a message. And what you can do here is you can add the topics and edit, or just add it straight up, or just delete the suggestion, whichever you want. But when it pulls in suggestions from an FAQ page, it will not immediately put them into the bot. It will basically make you review them first, which is really, really helpful. Couple of other things we have in here as well are entities. Entities are going to be a couple of things that are going to be pre-built for you. So as developers, a lot of us are quite familiar with the idea of variables. I often try and think of these as variables. So if you are, let's say, expecting something very specific from an end user, well, firstly, let's go through what we have here. You've got your classic stuff like your age, Boolean, city, color, continent, all these kind of stuff that you may expect an end user to actually populate in as a potential variable option. And what you can do, as you saw in the topics earlier, based on the input of somebody, you can assign that to a specific variable type or topic or entity type, should I say. You can always build your custom entities here too. And a really good example of this actually in the PVA in a day. And if you haven't done PVA in a day previously, highly, highly recommend it. It's really, really good. You can build out things like, you know, different computer components types. Let's say you were expecting like a brand of computer. You can basically create computer brand as an entity and add things like, you know, IBM, Dell, Apple, whatever it is that you want to add in there as specific answers. And that way, when these particular words are received by the bot actually has a good idea as to how to handle them or what they actually are. Very, very helpful. Under our analytics, as we mentioned earlier, we can actually take a quick look at the summary here, and I can pop this back by a little bit. We can actually see a couple of different, you guys are actually in here, but at the moment looking at this particular bot I can see, which is absolutely awesome. So you are able to do like a full analytical report based on this, as I showed you guys earlier. Pretty decent CSAT, 4.8, total sessions 43 up here, really good engagement rate of 95% too. Resolution rate is going to be the people who actually engaged with your session and got all the way through to the end survey and the actual issue was resolved. Escalation rate is going to be the percentage of people who did not like to use your bot and actually wanted to speak to an end user immediately. So being like, I need to speak to a human, that trigger phrase is going to be an escalation phrase. So all those different things in here, engagement over time, multiple different things. We can actually drill down even deeper to customer satisfaction and being able to see which of our topics, as I mentioned here, there are customer satisfaction drivers, which of them actually caused some really good CSAT impacts for, which of them actually did not cause good CSAT impacts for too. You can also do your billing section, which is going to be really important, taking a look at the total number of sessions that were billed, and of course, you know, being able to see those billings over time as well. So really, really helpful information in here. When you're ready to publish it, you can pop in here and publish out your bot. And as I mentioned earlier, you will always get this nice little demo website in case you guys didn't see the QR code earlier. Nice little demo website in here where you can ask the bot a couple of questions. You do get the ability to modify some of these questions over here on the left-hand side and interact with the bot completely entirely as though it is live. So it's really, really nice. I'm trying to think, I'm pretty sure that's it. A couple of other things in here as well that are going to be new that I didn't actually cover in my slide deck. New things that have been added are the ability to authenticate your users. So I'm working on a project at the moment where the PVA bot will be embedded into Teams, and because it's embedded into Teams, it can pull the end user information. So you can actually make some authentication functionality with your PVA bot too. So some super, super cool stuff in here. All right, I'm going to pop back to my PowerPoint slide real quick. Let's see how we doing. 40 minutes. Hey, that's not bad. And that is pretty much it. I'm going to pause for some question. If anybody has any, I will be definitely happy to take them for you. But if you want to check out a couple of things, like I mentioned, Twitter here, blog post here, and also if you want to take a look at the actual live Black Taxi, you can check them out on blacktaxi.com. And if anyone is ever in Philadelphia, definitely let me know, and I will be happy to take you for a beer at my favorite place. That's me.
Amazing, Emma. That was so great. We also, by the way, have got a bot, our quizzy bot. Please make sure that you do that quiz, and we will see how your score turns up.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So as of now, I don't see any questions so far.
Either means it was really good or really bad.
Let's take it positive always. It's good.
Fantastic.
So guys, if you have any questions, please either raise your hand or feel free to unmute yourself and then you can ask directly.
And as always, happy to take questions over Twitter as well. There is a contact me link on my blog as well. So if you ever want to just pop a quick question in there too, you are more than welcome to do that too.
Okay, no questions, but yeah, how much time did you take to make that bot, Emma?
It's a good question. So the original beer bot itself, which was that beer quiz that we ran through very, very quickly, that took about 2 or 3 days. The hardest part of building out a flow is honestly figuring out how to get to your end result. So you basically start off with the questions that you want and you know the answers that you want, but figuring out how you get there can be the hard part. So I always highly recommend whiteboard it out and just kind of flow it through. And if there are chunks of things that you think are going to be reusable, I highly recommend putting them into their own topic. So the beer bot itself took about a week. The virtual bartender itself was not as long because we already had the core components and we kind of already knew what we were doing. So I would say it probably took about 2 or 3 days to get fully up and running. And this is currently being used at my local bar as well. So it's been very, very nicely received by everyone so far. It's an interesting take, especially with COVID-19 taking over and people having to not use hands-on menus and masks and all that good stuff. So it's been really well received.
That's amazing. That's pretty awesome. And how about if you can put some lights on the validation part, how about, let's say you want someone to enter a full name, but someone entered just numbers. How do you, the Power Virtual Agent, consider that thing?
So it would use entities in that case to check. So when you ask an end user a question, you do have to specify what type of response are you expecting back. If you're expecting a number, a string, or a specific entity type or something like that, what you can do is you can specify that in the question. And if the end user gives you something you're not expecting, you can build in some logic. Usually it'll be like, I don't understand, can you repeat that? And then it'll repeat the question. Or you can basically say, if you get an answer you're not expecting, you can say, hey, I don't understand your question. Do you want to escalate to an agent? So you do have that ability too.
Great. Yeah, that's fantastic. Looks like people are actually using it, like the blacktaxi.com.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. So it is available at that QR code. So I will actually just open up that QR code again real quick in case you guys didn't get that. Right here. So if anybody wants to give that a go, it is this QR code right here. If you missed it at the start, you can definitely give that a try.
And with that, I have a question here from Kiran. The question number 1 is, do we have any limitation with respect to the number of user topics and phrases?
Oh, very, very good question. Not that I've seen so far. As you could see, the virtual bartender has quite an extensive number of topics, so absolutely no limitations that I have seen. I would have to check the docs, but I don't believe there are. Yeah, I can actually see Kieran has a couple of questions, so I'm happy to just run through them real quick, Roma, if you'd like.
Yeah, yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So, Kieran, I can see your second question. Are user topics spinned per PVA, or can you reuse across PVAs? This is such a great question. You can actually implement your PVA bots within solutions now. So you can create a PVA bot in a solution and basically export that solution and pull it into a different bot. I don't believe you can basically copy and paste topics yet, although I do know that functionality has been requested, so I guess watch this space. And finally, the licensing model for PVA, that is the tricky one. So I kind of liken the licensing model to when Power Apps originally came out and everything seemed quite expensive. PVA right now, in my opinion, is still quite expensive. I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's $1,000 for your 1,000 sessions. So if you have someone who who is a heavy user of PVA, it is expensive, so about $1,000 a month right now. So yeah, again, watch this space with the licensing. I don't know any inside information on the licensing, but it is my personal opinion. I can't expect it to stay at that price for long. But yeah, hope that answers your question, Kieran.
And we have two
yes,
more
Emma,
questions.
thank you.
Sure thing.
Sorry.
Emma, I must tell you that Kiran is with us from quite long time and he's asking all the wonderful questions. Looks like he's actually jotting them down. So big shout out to you, Kiran. And again, we have a question from Yogesh. He's also with us from a long time now, I think more than 12 hours already. The question is, can you talk about deployment across environments?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really, really great question. And again, something that has recently been implemented with Power Virtual Agents is the ability to basically build out your bots in different solutions. So what I've done before is, and specifically with this beer bot, right, I would spin up a separate solution for each of the different breweries that I would deploy the beer bot specifically for. So spin up my environment and then I would deploy my solution on top. And that has been wonderful for me so far. So that's how I would recommend doing that right now. Hopefully does that answer your question, Yogesh? Hopefully.
Yogesh, you there? I hope that was fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we have one from Fernando saying, what has been your experience with chatbots in Teams? I had problems and he can't use them with the team members. He had already asked in the community.
Okay. Yeah, Fernando, I definitely would be curious as to what you're experiencing. If you are experiencing developing PVA outside of Teams, like if you're developing PVA on CDS, or are you developing PVA on Project Oakdale? That would be probably my first question. If it's on Project Oakdale, I would definitely reach out to the Project Oakdale team for questions on that. But if it's within Teams, I would be curious to see what issues you're actually experiencing. Like I mentioned earlier, I deployed a Teams bot in the last place I worked before I came to work at AIS to handle pre-sales questions from our salespeople. So our salespeople would often ask the same questions to the pre-sales people over and over again. So we basically built a bot to handle that for us. And if they turned out that they couldn't get an answer to the question, we would defer them to the pre-sales team via email. So yeah, curious to see what issues you've actually had. Very, very happy to chat with you offline about that too, if you would like.
Fernando, I hope that was fine. We have another question. Is there any support for CI/CD with respect to the Power Virtual Agents?
I am not familiar what CI/CD is, if you wouldn't mind elaborating on that.
So Yama, this is Venkat. So just
Hey, Venka.
yeah, automatically can we do this deployment across environments? That is the question for
across
bots.
environments?
Yes. I have dev environment and I have testing environment. Can I do it automatically, like automation? We call continuous integration or continuous deployment, like that, with the help of all CI/CD process. That is what my question is.
I do apologize. Still, I'm not super sure as to what the question is. It could be potentially just technically over my head. There's always that chance.
Okay.
If it's not a CI/CD, what he's trying to say, like generally we can transfer some of the flows using DevOps. Can DevOps make a part of migrating solutions?
Ooh. Very good question. I can't see why not, considering that we can pop our PVAs into solutions, and I know you can deploy via Azure DevOps. I can't see why you couldn't. I couldn't see why this would be treated any differently to just standard solutions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If that is helpful. If that is not helpful whatsoever, I am more than happy if you want to send me a quick email or quick tweet. Just let me know, and I'm more than happy to go to the product team and find out for you. Oh yeah, Kieran, it is solution aware, so yes. Okay, so can we implement authentication for end user consuming PVA? If so, can you throw some light? Sorry if I missed it, it had been covered earlier. Yes, okay, cool. Glad you asked this question. So there are a couple of different ways you can do authentication with PVA. First one is obviously no authentication required. Second one, you can do it via Teams and Azure AD. And then the third one is going to be simple username password type of authentication. So yes, you can definitely do authentication with PVA.
I hope that answers your question, Kiran.
Sure thing. Happy to
Awesome.
help.
Yes, very much. Thank you.
You are very, very welcome.
So that was amazing, Emma.
Oh, so
I
glad you
think,
liked it.
yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, everyone, including Emma. We really appreciate your presence today, and we hope that you all will be taking some new learnings. And yeah, again, big thanks to you for sharing your knowledge with us, Emma, today. Hope to see you soon in future as well. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And again, well done on an amazing session. It's been really, really informative. So well done to the organizers. You guys have obviously put a lot of work into this, and it's very, very much appreciated by the community.
Fantastic session.
Thank you so much.
No
More
worries.
than happy to see you here. Hi there, Deepesh here.
Hey, Deepesh, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. The 16th hour running, so we were just shifting gears. So I joined in like
Nice.
30
Amazing.
hours, like 30 minutes into your session, but I couldn't miss your epic session. And both the topics, PVA bot as well as the other part of it is really, close to me, beer as well as the bot. So it was great. A lot of information you shared around making it cool. It's a great use case actually to show the impact of the entire, alternative use cases that exist with Power Platform. And the way you present is always great. We have been trying to align for a,
Yeah,
something
for
like
sure. Yeah, I like to kind of talk about things at a very basic level, a very entry level, because otherwise, like, if I can understand it, everyone can understand it. That's my mentality for sure.
Yeah. So my question it's a very simple one. Like just we do have time. I hope guys we have time, right? I see 16 minutes on the clock here. What was the impact on the beer sales of that particular your local pub after this bot was put in? Did it increase? That's going to be a great story to tell as well, right?
Oh man, I'm gonna ask Neil that actually. I'll chat to him later. I'm actually gonna be talking to him later. I think the biggest thing that Neil saw out of this was that everybody knows who he is now. I presented this exact thing at Power Platform Community Conference last week, I think it was, or a week before, and everyone was like, "Who's Neil? I want to listen to his music. He's great." So I included that little QR code with his music in there. I think he's seen the most personal profit out of the entire thing because of that. But yeah, I actually have to ask him. I think that's a very good question.
Yeah, see, it's an alternative use case. It's fun. So let's say I was selling beer worth like 1,000, and then I invested into this kind of a bot, and then there are parts of world which are going to ask that question. But it's let's say I lived in Ireland for 4 years. It's a pub heaven, right? You do.
Yes.
So if it really has to make business sense to the greater community and ecosystem, it will totally make sense. But yeah, I'm going to check with you about that question for sure later.
Yeah, for real. And I do also see it like I'm trying to create like a fully free IP of this for different breweries as well. Because of the pandemic, I do feel like, local businesses are obviously struggling. I live
Yeah.
right next door to an amazing brewery. And for me, I drink the same thing. I am very much a person of habit. I will always drink the same thing. But I figured, why not make a bot to help me decide to drink something else? And I actually consulted with another one of our amazing Bizapps MVPs, Malin Martinez. And she is actually a huge beer drinker. If you don't know her, she is very, very knowledgeable. And she actually helped me build out a flow for the brewery next door, which is the basis of the original beer bot. So
All
that
right,
is also
that's super cool. If you need any techno-functional presence around I'm more interested with the brewery domain as such because it's really close to even the other part of the world. More than happy
Yeah.
to. But I think there are even AI scenarios what a particular person wants to drink at a one particular point of time. Like there are so many things to brewery as an industry.
Definitely. And we have a couple of really cool things coming up as well. I am actually working on an RPG at the moment. So I found somebody who is very talented and very creative when it comes to writing stories and things like that. So he is going to help me build out a full RPG story behind PVA. So I think that's also going to be super cool.
That's kind of awesome. We at Champs have one of the MVPs, Prashant. I believe you know him. He had been up for like 16 hours straight, and it must be like 3 a.m. at night right now. So he's not around, but he's there. Is he there? I doubt he'll be up at this time. But
God, no.
Yeah, we are shifting gears, but he's one of the guys with PVA. He's also super interested in this particular domain. So when you like the domain as well as you like the tech, it's going to create wonders. So feel free, and we can get in touch offline and talk about this at length and be creative about it a bit.
I would absolutely love that. Once I find the time, you know yourself, it's just there's not enough hours in the day at the moment, but absolutely, I would love to connect and get that working.
Sure, and that was a great session. We welcome you at Champs. Definitely the timeline, because we work on the alternative time zones a bit, but we will try to align more. This is our first biggest 24-hour session, when we are arranging an entire conference. So thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today. And another thing we know, which I like to share with the community, like she's one of the persons who knows click dimensions like anything, right? So not only this and Microsoft Tech, that's going to be something we'll, if you want to get in touch and get an advice around click dimension, she's the person to go to. Like she can connect.
Oh, Deepesh, I might murder you for that.
Okay, no worries.
Oh, that's totally fine. Yes, I did spend 4 years at Click Dimension, so I do have quite an extensive background in marketing.
So thank you for all the learnings today. And if anybody has anything else to share, Vivek or any of the organizers here, we do have 13 organizers today, and I think 10 of them must be up right now. You feel free to have some interactive time with Emma. We still got like 11 minutes, which is like a lot. Otherwise, we want to show you one particular bot. Did they show you Quizzy or not yet?
I just popped it open, actually. I need to have a look at it. I'm very excited by this.
So if Swaroop or Nishita or anybody else can share Quizzy, that's going to be great.
I think it's in the chat.
We use Power Virtual Agents, we use Power App Portals, we use Power Automate, and we have embedded it into a quiz bot for this particular event for 24 hours.
Yeah, go to the link and take
Nishita here.
Yeah, there's a
leaderboard screen and take us through.
Pardon?
Yeah, sure.
Over here?
There's a leaderboard as well.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Platform, yeah. And you know what, Emma, if you really play with it and if you're gonna score, you are also gonna get some cool goodies in US from us. So
yes, I'm here for this. I love this.
All right. So they're sharing it on the screen how it looks like. So
yes, Nishita, we can see your screen.
Nishita, we can see the screen, but where's the bot?
Sorry about the network. Can you see?
Yeah, we can. Emma, Nishita is sharing the Quizzy today. So it's embedded on a Power App portal, of course, and it goes like this. We just say quiz me, and then it asks for certain thing. Nishita, go ahead. It's all your show from here.
And then you click on bring it on, and then choose your favorite topic. Before that, we obviously need your name and email ID for the leaderboard. So don't forget to put in your names. We've also added an automation to detect any kind of duplication. So I think it's been a good overview on how we've created it.
That's Nishita, not of course low code. That's some code from a techie. Swaroop has put in code for that part for sure. So we have combined low code with code, and that's what coffee converts, right? Or a beer converts. When you apply software engineering to a beer or a coffee, it converts into a low code, no code, or it converts into a code.
Hi Deepesh, this is Swaroop.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Hey, so for duplicate detection, like I'm still using Power Automate because we have designed a entity structure in CDS. So it's kind of still no code.
Oh my
because
God.
we have the structure well defined. So we are just using Power Automate
Oh
to.
my God, Sarup, I need to check with you on this because we were discussing certain set of plugins. If it has gone low code as well, we need to
No,
discuss
the
this later.
we do have plugin code basically for
Okay.
calculation of scores, but then for the duplicate detection part is still low, like no code. By using Flow, Power Automate, I was able to achieve it.
That's that's like super cool. These two great people, Swaroop, our champ from Seattle, and Nishita, our champ from Mumbai, have spent like 2 weeks of their life on this particular board. Enjoy it, guys. If you come on the leaderboard, you're gonna get some cool goodies from E365 champs.
Let's just check the leaderboard again, Deepesh.
Yeah, let's project the leaderboard.
People are okay. So I think Greg has come on top now, but Julian is still leading the leaderboard with 69 points. So guys, come on, it's time you buck up and take the quizzes.
And I have a question, Swaroop, Nishita. Sorry for my ignorance because I had too many things to check with around for this particular event. But what happens when I take this particular session? I mean, if I take the quiz again, does it override?
No.
No,
No,
it like it. I don't know if you saw the screen just now, but it actually tells you that you've already taken the quiz. So please pick another
No,
one.
I asked a reverse question for a reason. There is so much tech put in there that it actually tells you already taken it, so you can only take it once, guys. So after that, it's not going to allow you that. All
But yeah,
right.
this was a great time to
Divesh, that's the sad
chat.
part.
No, that's not the sad part, Kiran. We cannot allow like that way. Everybody will score 100 and who will give us so many goodies.
Understand. Understand that.
You have been around, Kiran. I really appreciate you've been around for like as much long as we are. Like this is 16th, 17th hour in on a 24-hour event. Just shows the commitment and motivation, and we take it as appreciation. We must be delivering really good quality content that you are around. I know definitely Emma's session was one of the Steelers and we had to align it to her time, right? Because she connects from North America. But you know, toward right till the last session, that's how it's gonna be. So I hope you're up another 6 to 8 hours. I'm just taking the liberty of talking so much because we have filler. Emma, if you have anything to share with the community, here's the point. We still have like 5 minutes to go before.
Yeah, no, I think I'm all talked out.
What do you think
It's been really
what
fun.
do you think about the Quizzy bot now for
It's so good. It's so good. I love that you guys are like tallying up scores in the back end. You built in that duplicate detection. How did you build in the duplicate detection? Is it just variable storage?
it's a mixture of Power Automate and plugins and some cool tech from a cool champ from Seattle plus a cool champ from Mumbai. And these are the quiz
Wow.
masters at champs. They have, I think before this they have conducted 27 or 28 quizzes. They done twice every week, and we shared
Wow.
like last month we shared 3 vouchers for examinations from Microsoft, right? So we gave
Yeah.
3 vouchers out. Before a year before, the month before that, we gave out like some cool. I think we gave out 35 USD each. So we are giving prizes out as well to be participating in the community. So this month we didn't do anything. We just planned for this event for 38, 39 days straight. And one of the things we innovated is this one. We came up with our new logo, which you see on the leaderboard. That's our new logo with the new branding, which is like Power Platform branding. We are coming up with a new portal for D365 champions, right? That's something which we could not deploy this week, but that's going to come next because we really wanted a medium to connect together all this great thing. So yeah, we thought that when we celebrate our Global Bizapps Day, which is 2 years of this community into being, we wanted to celebrate it in all possible ways. So we are originally techies who started being low code warriors. So we are mixing and matching everything now at this stage.
So great. Yeah, I'm really impressed with this bot for sure. I definitely love the duplicate detection that you guys have built into that too. It's really, really smart. And then putting it in a portal is also amazing.
You know, Brian really liked it, and we were more than happy. He was really taking the quiz. He was the first one to take this quiz, Mr. Dan.
Yeah, he was the first one.
Ah, of course.
But I actually really would like to add this that, sessions like Emma's, it was so out of the usual, not like someone who just shows all the tech part and this is how you do it. And this is something that keeps you interested. Like Deepesh mentioned, he's so interested in pubs and breweries. So this just keeps you ticking and thinking of, different use cases, and that's how I think we came up with the quizzy idea.
Yeah, for sure. I think if we think outside the box, we can make amazing things happen. Like I mentioned, building a Power Virtual Agent to help a couple decide where they should go for dinner that night is, I think, a super, super smart but very, very simple way of doing it. I know my very good friend Matt Collins-Jones built his own personal assistant and integrated it with like Outlook and things like that too. So super, super cool things that you can do with Power Virtual Agents. It doesn't just have to be a boring chatbot.
I think a big part of, to add to that, what Emma is saying and what she did with the beer bot, you have to think outside the box also sometimes. So when the guys came up with the idea of doing a quiz, we didn't want to do forms for customer voice. That is static, right? We wanted to innovate and we wanted to let our champs be open and see what we came up with. It's so innovative. It's so cool. I mean, we have to just let it open. We tried to embed it on Teams. We tried a lot of stuff before we failed. We failed on the way, and that's important to realize, right? Even for a quizzy, we failed on few things, and then we were discussing and we were brainstorming, and then finally we said we wanted to embed it actually in our portal for today, and then we said, okay, we'll merge it with Power App portals and we'll go through that, right? And there are so many people. Vivek was contributing to this effort as well, along with Swaroop, along with Nishita, and yeah, it's you need brainstorming and you need to be innovative, right? So Quizzy has been something which has really interested everybody throughout the 16, 17 hours, along with the great work others are doing. Like we have a marketing automation expert here at Champs, and she's a Click Dimension expert as well, and she was hosting you, right, Roma? And the way she has automated Champs, she has really she has automated Champs throughout the year. So we have different people coming from all over. Like Roma comes from South Africa, and coming together and connecting and trying to sing those different times to make this event happen and have it as an interactive session and just for passion. I think that's what community is about, and that's where your session was really resonating, and we talked about the bot as well. I hope you like this bot, and this gives you some new set of ideas to merge it with portals and other things for the brewery. People like to bid, in a brewery. There are use cases world over where people like to bid for their particular drinks, right? And I think a bot is a great combination there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, Emma, for coming here.
Emma.
Thank you.
We have
just stopping the
Thank you, Emma, again for coming and joining and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you.